Welcome to the Thrive TV show with Lauren Parsons, helping you boost your health, energy, and productivity.
Kia ora koutou, hi there and welcome to another episode of the Thrive TV show. I'm Lauren Parsons, your host, and today I am joined by Tracy Sheen and we're talking about AI, how AI doesn't just change your business, it changes every human in it. So excited to have you here, Tracy. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Lauren. This is going to be fun.
It will be fun. We're going to talk about why AI is a human decision, not a tech decision, what happens when you skip the human layer, and how you can build a workforce that thrives with AI, not just survives. So very topical and very relevant right now. But before we dive into that, Tracy, I'd love to just go through some of my this and that questions, if that's okay.
Ooh, absolutely. Let's go.
Okay, so tell me, beachfront or mountaintop?
Beach.
Okay, chocolate or cake?
Chocolate cake.
Oh, yeah, both. Okay, very nice. Would you rather be able to speak 10 languages fluently or play 10 musical instruments beautifully?
Languages.
Nice. Would you rather go a week without the internet or a week without a car?
Oh, 100% a car.
Yeah. Do you have a
I,
car? I know
I,
you have a nomadic lifestyle, so
yeah, but I'm cheating on that one because I stopped driving. My hubby drives. I'm the
oh,
entertainment director. So I think I would like be in a fetal position under a couch somewhere if I had no internet.
okay,
That
yes.
I can't imagine what my heart rate is right now, Lauren. That just scared me.
Even thinking about it. Okay, all right. North America or South America?
South.
South. Okay, nice. And would you rather have a live-in chef to cook your meals or a live-in massage therapist?
Massage therapist
Okay,
every
nice.
day of the week. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me tell you a bit more about Tracy. Tracy Sheen CSP is an AI governance consultant, a keynote speaker, and two-time award-winning author with over 30 years experience in digital technology. She even launched SMS and the original iPhone in Australia. She guides teams, leaders, and organizations to build workforces that are genuinely human-led and AI leveraged through her signature GIST framework, GIST, that I think we're going to dive into today. She has a wonderful book called AI and You as in the letter. It's good old school texting language, isn't it? AI and You, Reimagine Business, and it's a plain language guide for anyone who wants practical Monday morning steps without overwhelm. Tracy's all about human-led, AI leveraged, and she calls it the augmented workforce. So, Tracy, can you start by telling us a bit about how did you get into what you're doing now?
Yeah. My mum and dad were amongst the first in Australia to import electronic scales.
Okay.
So I can remember the kind of mid 70s. I was about 4 or 5 sitting on the floor of their workshop, pulling apart electronic scales and staring at the very, very, very pretty bright green boards with silver lines that ran along them. So I used to pull out the soldering iron and learn how to solder boards and get the machines to do different things.
Okay.
And so, in hindsight, did I know that I was setting myself up for a career in technology and things? No, I was having fun, but that was kind of where it all started. And then I can dot point the calendar throughout my life to different things like that that happened.
Okay. And now tell me about what are you doing day to day now? What's the main focus of your work?
Yeah, well, this week I'm in Sydney and it's been boardroom briefings, helping leadership teams grapple with the implications of artificial intelligence for their organisation, but also their team and the broader community, their clients, their suppliers, the people that their business touches day to day. What does that mean, and how do they do that ethically and with a human lens? I've had media and I've had training sessions. So usually it's me in front of a group of people talking about artificial intelligence, and it could be anything from guardrails and governance through to practical training that people can do, the moment they walk out of the room.
Nice. So you talk about how AI is really a human decision, not a tech decision, which sounds a little bit counterintuitive. So unpack that for me.
So I'm really all about AI for humans.
Hmm.
So I think, we all got into business or we all got into the roles that we have because we loved certain aspects of that role or of that business. But there ends up being a whole lot of minutiae that we have to deal with day to day that really probably drags us down and gets us feeling like, this is not what I got into this thing for.
Hmm.
And I really love helping people separate the passion from the process.
Okay.
Process can be very methodical, very repetitive, and that's the stuff that artificial intelligence is really good at removing from your shoulders. And the things that you're passionate about are usually the relationships, the strategy, the connection with other humans, that type of thing. And that's the stuff that AI is never going to replace. So, giving you more time to focus on the passion so you can outsource the process.
Nice. So where do you recommend people start? Like, just getting really practical for people that are listening in, whether they are working in a career or have their own business,
Mm.
where should we be starting?
Yeah, find the low hanging fruit. So if I was to say to you, Lauren, what's the one thing that drives you batty about what you do? You'd probably give me a list of three or five things. Oh, I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like that. Pick the one thing. If you could do one thing right now and cross that off your list that you never have to deal with that again, what would it be? And it might be my email box is, it's out of control, or whatever, my tasks, I can never get through my to-do list. Whatever that one thing is, that's where you start. And once you nail that, then you move on to the next thing. But the biggest issue that I see is people give me that list of 3, 5, 10 things and they try and do all of them at once. Don't do
Hmm.
that. Pick one thing, get that nailed. That's going to give you time back to then focus on, well, what's the next thing I'd like to get rid of?
Okay, so I'm curious now because I can instantly see AI helping with my inbox, but
Mhm.
AI helping me get through my to-do list. Ooh,
Mm.
that sounds a little more curly. So tell me more about that. How can I do that?
Yeah. So I don't care what tools you use. To me, that's just the end game. Okay. But I'm going to give you an example. Day to day, one of the platforms I use is Claude by Anthropic. And they have a section in their platform called Co-work. So
Okay.
I have scheduled tasks set up every day, and I go into those scheduled tasks and it gives me a running list of my to-do list. And then it says, okay, while you're here, let's knock 5 things off that to-do list. So it helps me prioritize, and then it goes through and says, okay, so this is the first thing you need to do. So you're going to stop and ring Virgin and, change that airfare that you needed to do, or, whatever those things are. So it really helps me just focus and work through those things. If it's an email, it can then draft the email and have it sitting there ready for me to send. If it's a proposal, it can then go and, grab previous proposals and help me mock that up and get it ready to go. But just that co-work of having someone, to sit down with me and go, okay, Lauren, like, here's the 5 things that are on your list. I've prioritized them. Do you reckon we can get through 1 or 2 now? Let's do it.
So it's like that external motivator rather than getting into procrastination or getting busy on little things that aren't important, just to help you
100%.
refocus. And then
100%.
and then as I say, the next step can be actually enabling some of those processes, drafting things for you.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. What do you think are the biggest, not the low-hanging fruit, but the opposite of that, like the biggest pitfalls or mistakes that people are making right now?
Mm. It's often that they try and do everything at once.
Hmm.
So they kind of go, oh, okay, we've got to embed AI in the business, right? I've got to start using AI. So they think that they need to do everything all at once. And then it becomes this big overwhelm thing, and something doesn't work right. So then they go, oh, this isn't working. It's all AI and I'm out. I'm done. I'm never using this thing again. Or they automate everything for the sake of automating it. So, part of that for me is just because you can AI doesn't mean you should. So,
Okay.
where are you going to insert those human points to go, okay, does that really need to be automated? Or do we actually need a human at that point to go, yep, that's good to go, and it can go on to the next thing? So it's really looking at, again, the business as a whole, or your role as an individual in the organization as a whole, and going, where are the things that could trip me up, and where are the things that I could get some really quick wins and build that muscle, so I'm understanding how it works, how it fits, and I'm excited to keep working with it.
Now, I know you talk about, at an organizational level for leaders to be thinking not just about themselves, but thinking about their teams, their clients, their
Mm,
customers, the community. Tell me more about that
mm.
and why that's important.
Yeah, so when I work with organizations, I run them through what I call the human gist framework. So we're probably familiar with the term of getting the gist of something,
Yep.
but the human is the other part to it. And I love a good acronym and I love a good framework, right? So human for me is habits, unit, macro, audience, and neighborhood. So
Okay.
the H for habits is the individual. What's my role? What can I control? And what are my responsibilities? And then we go to the U for unit. How does my role impact my team? It might be my department, or it might be, a couple of people that I work with. It might be VAs, whatever that looks like for you.
Mhm.
M for macro is the business. So, how does my role now impact my team and my business? So, what am I doing that's going to ripple out to that? And then A for audience is how does it impact my clients, my suppliers, or my members, if it's an association, whatever that looks like. And then N for neighborhood is the broader community. So, how are we discussing the use of AI with the broader community, so we're educating everybody up to the same standard of values and ethics that we hold internally? So that's the human layer. And
Mhm.
then across the top is the gist, and that's your guardrails or governance. So what are our responsibilities? What do we need to mandate? That type of thing. Intent is the I. So what's the intention? What are we trying to achieve here? What problems are we trying to solve? S for strategy, how are we going to do that ethically and with a human lens? And then T for training. So if we're not putting a training plan in place and we miss any one of those, and it's all going to fall apart. So you can imagine, if we've got human down, that vertical axis, and the gist that runs across the horizontal, we can then see that, okay, what are the guardrails for Lauren? What are the guardrails for her department? What are the guardrails for the organization? What are the guardrails for our clients? And what's the impacts for our broader community? So then you can kind of see how everything actually touches and impacts everything else across the broader sense.
Yeah, I think that's so key, and it's a great, like, all-encompassing way to look at it, but
Yeah,
simple, which is
yeah,
key. And I think this is what we're seeing is lots of individuals and organizations are seeing the benefits and dabbling and doing different things and then running off in different directions, which is great. But as we can imagine, if there are no guardrails, if there are no rules of what can and can't be done, even just data being put out into public spheres where it's not meant to be, or you know, heaven forbid, content going out that's not accurate or not aligned with brand, or all these different things that can go
absolutely.
wrong. And I think, as with anything that's new, this is the fear that can be there, and then almost the backlash that I'm noticing, almost like a backlash against AI in lots of ways, of people saying,
Mm.
"Oh, that was AI," and yes, we are seeing some poor examples. So, I guess it's about embracing it without falling into some of those traps. Yeah. So, can you tell me a
And
bit more about guardrails and how they help avoid those challenges?
yeah, well, I was just going to say, with the backlash that you're seeing, I mean, we're all seeing it on social. Well, I'm certainly seeing it on social media, and I know you were saying it to me earlier, of people going, I'm unfriending anybody who's using AI. That to me comes back to the T in the gist. That's training.
Hmm.
That just tells me that you haven't trained either your individual, your team, or the system that you're operating with on what is your brand voice? How do we sound? How do we structure this type of content? because that it shouldn't be happening. Everything I put out, you will see that I say this was done in conjunction with my AI. The AI might have wrote it, but I've reviewed it. I've, given it the political sign off to say that it can go out. And that to me is the augmented workforce in action. But the platforms know my voice. They know that I still like a good drama dot, so the ellipses, the three dots, I do like my good drama dots. I still like an M dash, so I've had to remove those because people confuse that with AI. So there's certain things now that we look and we go, oh, okay, if I see an M dash, that's AI. If I see too many actuallys or too many genuinelys, like we're starting to go, okay, that's AI now. So we can just go back into our system and go, we never use actually, we never use genuinely, say this, not that. So there's some, it falls to the guardrails and the training again of how we're teaching our systems and our people inside our organizations or in our roles, what we can and can't do and how we want things to sound.
That's so interesting. And it's made me just realize something, that one of my filler words or overused words when speaking and writing is the word actually. My book coach actually told me that I actually use the word actually a little bit too often, which is funny because, yeah. So if you see that in my post, that's actually me.
That's
Just to get
actually
another
Lauren.
actually
Yeah.
in the conversation there. But it is interesting, isn't it? Yeah, it's I even saw someone post the other day saying removing M dashes is not enough. I can still tell if you're using AI and I'm going to remove it. And I think what you're saying is key is first of all feeding in great information at the top end, because if you give a one line prompt or a poor prompt or expect AI to do all the heavy lifting, you're going to end up spending longer, you're going to get a rubbish result, and you're going to end up having to rework it, and it's just not going to be good for you or anyone else that's reading it, viewing it, whatever the outcome is. Whereas if we can
Absolutely.
start with really clear training that you talked about, or
Mm.
really clear direction, and then make sure you've got really good reviewing processes in place, then, it is interesting the possibilities
And
and how it can improve things.
it's potentially, for me, I think about working with AI like you're onboarding an intern.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you treat it like you're onboarding an intern, it's like a Labrador on lino, right? It's super excited. It just wants to help. It's just there for, what do you need, Lauren? How can I help? But if you don't give it direction, if you don't say, okay, this is my role, this is who I work with, these are the types of people that we work with, just like you would an intern or a new employee, welcome
Yeah.
to the organization. You've been employed to do this. Here's the policies and procedures. Here's our website. We're going to take you on a tour of the office. Be careful of Lauren. She can be a little hit and miss, but everyone else is pretty nice. You know, we try and set them up for success, right?
Yeah.
Yet often what I see is when people are given access to an LLM, a large language model, whether it's Copilot or ChatGPT or whatever it is, we go rework this email. Okay, what do you want me to do with that? This thing's
Mm.
basically been trained on the whole of the internet, terms and conditions apply, but that's, it's coming to you with that response going, okay, well, I've watched 20 million hours of cat videos. Is that going to be helpful to bring to this conversation? But if you could say to it, I'm a marketing manager inside this organization. We work with this type of people. This email is about this client, and I need you to respond in this context and blah, 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 blah. And the more you start to work with it, like your intern or your new employee, it starts to go, oh, that's how we do things around here. Actually, we use this type of language, so it starts to get to know how you react, how you interact, and what you do and don't say. And of course, you can personalize the systems in the background. So you can also start to upload brand voice and that type of thing. So you are loading your intern up with that content and the the things that they need to be successful.
Mm. It's interesting when you see, the levels of resistance. I know, Tracy, that you talk about people having anxiety or resisting or disengaging from AI, that's not necessarily that people don't want AI. What is it instead?
It's often overwhelm. Like, where do I start? What do I do? I've just been given this thing, but no training, no instruction. So this thing's just suddenly popped up on my laptop, and now what? It could be a sense of like, hang on a minute, are you trying to do away with my role?
Yeah.
Why is this? Why is this? Why am I suddenly using this? I've been here for 10 years and now you want me to use this? If I do that, am I not going to have a job next year? What? So there can be that sense of like, but why? But how? And that comes back to the intent and the strategy. What are you using this for and why? And if you can get everybody on board and say, okay, we've heard you. We've heard, Lauren, you are so sick of having to go through, this particular process. We've figured out that that can probably be done more efficiently by using AI. But hang on a minute, you know your role better than anyone. So we're thinking if we bring this in and you can work to get that right, that's probably going to give you like an hour back in your week that you can then do the stuff that you actually really like.
Mm,
Suddenly that's a different conversation. Lauren's going,
yeah.
hang on a minute, I don't have to do that report that's been bugging me for years, but I can actually go out and spend more time with the clients that I actually really like. Yeah, okay, I'm down with that. That's good. It's a very different mindset and a very different
Mm.
conversation. So remove the overwhelm and get people, you know, get them on board. Like, what are you trying to do? You're not trying to get rid of them. You're trying to make your business or your role more efficient and more productive so you get back to the passion projects that you enjoyed and joined the business for in the first place.
And I think that's where people can then see how they can add more value, really, which is,
Absolutely.
and like you say, and perhaps lower the amount of time they're doing on work that's not necessarily lighting them up. So that's really interesting. I wanted to speak to that, the whole fear around AI is going to make me lose my job. What
Mm.
what do you say when you hear those sort of statements?
Yes, but no doubt we are going to see some shift in the workforce, as we do with every change in technology. When email came out, we saw a shift. When the fax machine, I've been around long enough, Lauren, that I can remember the fax machine. But every time something comes in, we went from typewriter to word processor, right? Every time something happens, there's a bit of a pearl clutching, oh my God, somebody, like, we need to think of the children. So there will be shifts, but what we'll see more is a shift within role, not necessarily redundancies as such. So it's really about now the opportunity is to take a look at the role that you have been employed for or the business that you're running and look at, again, what's the stuff that I don't actually enjoy doing? What are those repetitive tasks that don't light me up? What's the stuff that if I could get that hour back, I could actually focus on the passion? And if we can start to transition that and work towards that now, then if you're an employee, I guarantee you your boss is not getting rid of you because you're making them more efficient, more productive, and more money by saying to them, actually, Lauren, you've got me thinking about that now. Actually, I've figured out how to do this thing in the system, and now that's saving me. And do you think a boss is going to get rid of you if you're able to go? That's now automated and it's working really well. It's allowed me to free up time to work on this. And now I'm starting to see, no, I'm going to go, you know what? I actually probably want you working on a few of those other projects because George over here is sitting with his hands crossed going, I'm not doing this. It's been the same for the last 20 years. And, George is likely to go by the wayside. But Lauren, who's figured out that this is something that can actually save her time and make her more productive,
Mm.
she's more likely for the boss to then go, all right, let's see how we can fit you into other areas because you're getting a handle on this.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the businesses that I'm talking to and leaders I'm talking to are talking about, again, high workload, people under pressure,
Absolutely.
deadlines, work, overwhelm. And when we look at all of those things and the potential that there is for work to be streamlined, improved, for things to be automated, for things to be dropped, for the focus to shift to great prompts, great checking, and all of those pieces, and trusting the right software for the right things and the right
Absolutely.
tools for the right things, that actually
Yeah.
those of us that are embracing that, again, as you say, with the right training in place, with the right guardrails in place, with that clear intent, and yeah, that all can actually help alleviate a lot of these challenges in terms of workload. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, it was interesting. I saw a stat the other day that in 60% of the roles that people went for in 2018 did not exist in 1940.
Wow. Okay. Mm-hmm.
So
Big
when you
shift.
think about, every decade or every, 5 years or whatever, there's a huge shift naturally towards what we're doing and how we're, creating roles and what the business is and all that type of stuff. So likely this is, we're just seeing an acceleration of what we've seen for the last, hundreds of years.
So interesting. What do you say to the people who are creatives? I'm a writer, for example. I have
Mm,
daughters who aspire to be writers and
mm,
artists and graphic artists, and it's interesting, and I do see them grappling with what they're doing and creating that's all just coming from them, and then seeing other tools that are out there, some which are
mm,
working really effectively and some which are not as
mm,
effectively. And just wondering, casting my mind for what is the landscape going to be like for my daughter, for example, who
mm,
wants to be a graphic artist or animator. What are your thoughts
mm,
around that, and that whole idea of content creation for creatives that are out
mm.
there?
We're definitely going to see more value put on human creation, in my opinion,
Mhm.
versus artificial creation. So, what I think's going to happen and what we're starting to see happen is a uptake on easy to generate artificial stuff, which may be the first iteration that, I can fool around with it and get it to a point where then I'm happy to hand that off to a graphic designer, because now instead of me trying to describe what it is I actually want or don't want, and it costing me a bucket load because the poor graphic designer's going, okay, you've just given me like 35 ideas to fit into a logo concept that's never going to fly, but that's what you've asked for. So I'm going to give you variations on that that's going to cost you a mozza until we get to the point of me being able to go, see, I
This
told
is
you
actually
so.
what I meant. Yeah. Yeah.
So, I think we're starting to see people going, do this, oh, yeah, no, that doesn't work. Do this, do this. Oh, okay, I'm at a point now. Now I can hand it off to my graphic designer and go, okay, this is kind of what I'm thinking. Run with it. So the brief is becoming much clearer. In terms of the actual creative, though, when we went from, say, painting to camera, it's just going to create a whole other level and a whole other segment of art and creativity that we haven't yet figured out what that is. So there's always going to be value on the human creation. If we look now to woodwork or anything like that, we're seeing this resurgence of, wow, that's a one-off piece that was created by our XYZ versus, I've just gone to a flat pack store and bought the same thing as, 9,000 other people in the past 2 hours. Clothing, I'm starting to work with tailors and designers that are creating, five of one pieces instead of fast fashion. So there's a
Right.
place for both. And I think the role of the creative is always to push those boundaries, is always to give humanity expression, right? So if AI used well allows me to iterate quicker or to research quicker or to expand ideas, I think that's where it's going to fit. But like every time we go through something, we're on that pendulum swing, right? Everything
Right.
becomes AI because we can. And oh my God, look at this. And then we get a whole bunch of AI slop that we're starting to see. So it will, as always happens, kind of settle back around the center where some people just need something done quickly. Now they have Canva, now they're going to have some AI, whatever. But for the high value, I need this to really land. There's always going to be the role for the real creatives amongst us.
I love it. Now let's just shift gears a little bit, Tracy, because what I would love to do, I love all of the high level concepts, and I think it is such a solid approach. Let's get into some nitty gritty and maybe even like a
Mm,
rapid fire list of this tool is great for this. And I'm just going to ask my AI tool who's listening into this to transcribe this piece and to highlight this in the notes, and I'll add them down in the show notes. How does that sound? Do you want to
it's
just fire off for
cool.
me just some really great tools that you recommend and like a one line of what you recommend using them for?
So I'm going to be really boring, Lauren, and preface this with two things.
Yeah,
The best tool is the one you use,
great.
right? Because everybody says like, oh my God, this tool's amazing for this tool's amazing for that. You could end up with 5,000 tools that you're paying $20, $50 a month for, and you're using none of them. Find one and give it a decent crack before you download another 12,
Right.
because it's not going to get you anywhere. Next thing I would say is if you download something, give it a go. Give it a go in the free trial. If you don't like it by the end of the free trial, or it's not fitting what you wanted it to do, ditch it, because you're only going to end up with, looking at your bank balance in 3 months' time and going, what is that random $40 subscription for? So
Good advice.
try fast, fail forward, move on. The next thing I would say is pay monthly, not annually. You may pay a little bit more month to month, but long run, you're going to save yourself money. Things are moving so quickly in
Yeah.
this space that I do not want you to be 3 months, 6 months into a subscription and have something land that completely blows everything out of the water. And you're like, oh, and I've got another 6 months left on
Yeah. So
this
you're more
thing,
agile
right?
if you're paying monthly, you can switch, you can,
Correct.
yeah, change.
Correct. So they're the big things. Now there's the last thing that is my overarching thing. Learn how to prompt. If you can prompt, you can use any tool to do essentially what it is you need to do. Don't fall, in my opinion, for the tools that are built on top of an LLM, on top of a large language model. And I'm going to mention a couple, but there's thousands of them out there, right? So if I say to you Sintra or OpenClaw, they are two examples that have become really, really popular because of the advertising. Oh, you can get, 50 agents that will do your marketing and your socials and your this and your that, da 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 da. When you look into it, they are all built on top of a large language model. You can build those things yourself for far less cost if you learn how to prompt properly. So
Okay. And
don't
can I
go,
interrupt and ask one question
yes,
around
I'm on
prompting?
my soapbox here, Lauren. So
No, no.
shoot.
Do you recommend using AI tools to help you learn to prompt or to use AI
Absolutely.
tools to create the prompt to then feed back into the same tool, that kind of thing, or into
Both.
another
Best
tool?
way to learn how to prompt is to ask your system, how do I prompt?
Okay. Exactly.
And think like a 5-year-old. If you've got kids
Why?
in
Why?
your,
Why?
exactly, but how could we do this better? What does that mean? What does that mean? How do we do this? But then what now? How do we, that is the best way to learn how to prompt. Be curious. So anytime you need to do something, start opening up your ChatGPT, your Copilot, your Claude, whatever your system is. I don't care. Just start using it and use it for everything. What you would normally Google. Start asking that of ChatGPT or Claude. I need to do this. I need to, create my travel itinerary. I want to do a birthday scavenger hunt. I want to create a invite. I want to clean out my pantry. But when you get a response, don't stop there. Go, okay, but how could we make that better? What could I ask you differently to get a different response? What if we thought about this from a different angle? Play devil's advocate, just start throwing things back at it and watch how it teaches you to interact. And I think the interesting thing that I've really learned from that approach, I now think far more strategically than I ever used to. And I always thought I was a pretty strategic thinker. But now when I'm working with my AI, I'm always looking at it going, how could I make that better? What am I missing? Is there something I'm not looking at? So I'm constantly going back to it, going, okay, that's pretty good, but what am I missing? Okay, but what if we look at it like this? How could we make it shorter? How could we make it longer? What if we look at this from an employee's point of view? What if we look at this from 5 years down the track? What am I missing? So I'm constantly now back to being a 5-year-old and extremely curious.
Yeah. Curiosity is
You do
great.
all of that, the tools are irrelevant. They're
Okay.
really, honestly, kind of right now, irrelevant because they're going to come and go. I call them fidget spinners.
Okay.
In saying that, there are some that I use every single day.
Okay. Tell us those just for
Claude,
fun. I love all those tips. I think that is far more valuable than just a list of
because
apps,
if you're
but
listening to this in 6 months' time,
it'll be
everything I'm
different.
about to say to you is probably going to be irrelevant now.
Yeah.
Okay.
But having said all that, we still want to hear what
Having
are the
said
things
all
that you
that,
use every
every
day.
day when I open up my computer, on my dock, always open in the background is Comet. So
Okay.
Comet and Perplexity is one of the large language models, and Comet and Perplexity has been built as an answer research platform. So I do all my research in there. So give me the research on current 2026 speaker topics around artificial intelligence. It goes off and does its little blah, 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 and then comes back to me with a full report. And then I will throw that in somewhere else and start massaging it. So it's always open. Claude, not Claude, Plaud, Plaud, is my little, and I'm going to hold it up to my screen because I've just had it on charge. It's my little AI note taker, and that sits on the back of my phone. So anytime I'm in a conference, a boardroom briefing, a meeting one-to-one, it just records the conversation. It allows me to be present now with my client because I'm not taking notes and I'm not losing, okay, what did Lauren just say? Because I'm halfway through this other note. I just let it take the notes, it transcribes perfectly, and then creates summaries or throws things through different templates. Tickety-boo, happy days. So that one's always going. I always use Claude. It's become my go-to. I train for clients across Google, Microsoft, Claude, Perplexity, whatever. Day to day, I use Claude in my business because I love the co-work feature and I love Dispatch. Dispatch, I can now open up my phone and go, hey, I need this to happen. It dispatches across to Claude on my laptop and starts working on it while I'm out and about doing stuff. So love that. One of our mutual friends has introduced me to Whisper Flow. Now, I tried this a few years ago and it was really dodgy. She made me download it 2 days ago, and I got to say, she's going to kill me, but I absolutely freaking love it now. So Whisper Flow allows you to just voice to text or voice to, so instead of having to type, and I've got fat fingers now, it just takes everything. But it's called Whisper Flow because you don't have to talk at a loud level. I can actually just go, so I need to message Lauren about this thing, and it will pick up the whole conversation. So it's been really, really good. What else? That's kind of about it. I've got specific tools like Codex inside of ChatGPT when I'm vibe coding or natural language programming. So that's now I'm starting to build dashboards and my own websites and everything just by talking to the system like this, and then it gives me the code and I can go and dump it somewhere and create a website or a landing page or a form or I'm building a dashboard at the moment for our nomadic travels in our caravan. So that's a bit of fun. And I have a warped sense of fun. I just realized that as I said it. Yeah, and then there's probably about 10 or 20 others that I use, every other week or so. Browse AI is another good one, I have to say. So Browse AI at the moment, it goes and reviews websites for you. So if you're looking to compare competitors or you want to do some research or anything, you can give it a list of websites. It will keep up to date with those and then come back to a report on what changes or anything like that are going on. So yeah, there's specific tools then for specific use cases, but they're kind of my overarching ones that happen day to day.
Love it so much. And as you say, it's all changing so quickly. So I love that you've given us, the key thing in terms of if we know the right questions to ask and we know the right place to start, and just the month-by-month subscription and figuring out the ones that work for us, because as you say, the tool we use is the best one. So Tracy, love chatting with you. If people wanted to find out more about your work or get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
Probably the easiest is just through LinkedIn. So, / Tracy Sheen, no E in Tracy. I keep them for my surnames. And yeah, or send up a AI algorithm and I'll see it in the metaverse.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So as we wrap up, if there was one final thought or one final comment you want to share for our listeners, what would that be, Tracy?
AI is already here. It's not coming. It's here. Now is your time. You still have time to sit back with your values, with your ethics, with your lens, and learn it in a way that is going to be valuable for you, for your business, and for your clients. Don't be led or guided by anyone who comes to you and goes, oh my God, this is amazing, because they may be a fantastic plumber, but they may not know what your role is or what you're trying to achieve. So make your own decisions, but do so through a lens of curiosity and ethics.
I love that. I love the starting with your own values and what's important to you, because that's, everything comes back to that. And if we can be in alignment with that and use this
You
as
won't
an
go wrong.
tool, yeah, we can't go wrong. Yeah. Wonderful. Oh, thank you so much, Tracy. Such a joy to spend time with you and just hear your wisdom. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. It's been great.
Lovely. So thanks to everyone that has tuned in. That's another episode of the Thrive TV show. Go out and thrive.
Thank you for listening to the Thrive TV show with Lauren Parsons. Visit thrivetvshow.com to access the show notes and discover our fantastic bonus content. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next inspiring episode.